You ever see something so big it doesn't even look real? It looks like a special effect from a movie or maybe something a kid would draw with a crayon. But then you see it move. You see it take a bite out of the side of a mountain and you feel the ground shake under your boots from a quarter mile away. That's the Caterpillar 6090 FS. It is the largest hydraulic excavator on the face of the earth. It weighs about 1,000 tons, stands over 7 stories tall, and has a bucket so massive you could park 4 or 5 full-sized pickup trucks inside it and still have room for the groceries. When this thing digs, it moves nearly 100 tons of earth in a single scoop. To put that in perspective, that's about the same as a fully loaded 18-wheeler. One bite, gone. Now, if you're like me, your first thought is probably, I want one. Your second thought is probably, what does that cost? And the answer is somewhere north of $25 million. But here is the part that really trips people up. The world's biggest mining companies, the ones pulling billions of dollars in copper, gold, and iron out of the ground, almost never actually buy these machines. If you understand why, you'll never look at heavy equipment or the way the world really works the same way again. Because in the world of the giants, owning the machine is actually a trap. Let's look at what we're dealing with here. The 6090 FS isn't just a vehicle, it's a mobile industrial complex. It's got 1,000,000 kilograms of mass to move. To get that much steel in motion, they had to bolt together 2 Cummins 16-cylinder diesel engines. Combined, they're pushing out about 4,500 horsepower. If you took 30 or 40 of the cars sitting in your driveway right now, stacked them on top of each other, and revved them all to the red line at the same time, you'd be close to that kind of power. The fuel tank holds 4,000 gallons. Think about that for a second. If you tried to fill that up at your local gas station, you'd be there for days. Even if you were making trips with a standard truck, you'd need 80 trips just to top it off. The hydraulic system alone holds 13,000 liters of oil. That is enough to change the oil in your car every 5,000 miles for the rest of your life, and probably your kids' lives too. And all of that oil is under so much pressure it could cut through a steel plate if a seal ever blew out. But for all that power, the 6090 is slow. It's got a top speed of about 1 mile per hour. It's not designed to go anywhere. It's designed to inhabit a location. It stands in one spot, and the mountain is brought to it. So if you're running a mining operation worth billions, why wouldn't you want to own the king of the mountain? Why wouldn't you want this monster sitting on your balance sheet as a company asset? The answer starts with the price tag, but it's not for the reason you think. $25 million is a lot of money, sure, but for a global mining firm, that's a rounding error. The real issue is that writing that check is what we call a corporate event. It's a massive hit to your liquidity. In the world of high-stakes mining, cash is oxygen. If you tie up $25 million in a single piece of iron, that's $25 million you can't use to bid on new land, pay your crew, or put up the massive performance bonds required to get new projects started. In this business, if you're over-leveraged in equipment, you're vulnerable. But the purchase price is actually the cheap part. The real headache starts the day the machine shows up on site. And it doesn't show up on a trailer. It shows up in pieces. It is a 1,000-ton jigsaw puzzle. The boom comes separate, the tracks come separate, the counterweights, the cab, the engines. It's a fleet of specialized trucks just to deliver one machine. Assembling it takes a team of specialized engineers and massive support cranes weeks of work. You have to perform alignments and calibrations that are more precise than a high-end watch, just on a scale that could crush a house. But once it's running, you're not just paying for fuel, which, let's be honest, is a bill that would fund a small town for a year. You're paying for a maintenance team that basically lives with the machine. When a machine this size needs a routine repair, nothing is routine. You don't just swap a hydraulic cylinder. You need a crane just to lift the part into place. Even getting to the hydraulic lines can take a full shift of disassembly just to reach the component that needs help. And then there's the engine problem. Having 2 massive V16 engines driving the same hydraulic system is a synchronization nightmare. If they fall out of step by even a tiny fraction, you get vibrations that can shake 1,000 tons of steel to pieces. It's a constant, high-stakes battle against physics and heat. This leads us to the biggest reason ownership is a dirty word for these giants: depreciation. We all know cars lose value the second you drive them off the lot, but with an ultra-class excavator, the value doesn't just dip, it falls off a cliff. A $25 million machine 5 years later might be worth $10 million. That's $15 million of company value that just evaporated. It's gone. Poof. On a corporate balance sheet, that kind of loss makes investors very nervous. But if you lease that machine, that depreciation isn't your problem. It belongs to the bank or the manufacturer's finance arm. When you lease, the machine is an operating expense. You're paying for the service of digging, just like you pay for the lights to stay on. You don't care what it's worth in 5 years because you're going to hand the keys back anyway. Plus, in places like the US, there are huge tax advantages. You can often deduct the full cost of those lease payments from your taxable income. For a big company, leasing can actually be a lot cheaper than buying, even if the total cash you spend is higher in the long run. It's about keeping your cash fluid and your tax bill low. But the real secret to why nobody buys these is risk transfer. Mining is a cyclical, brutal business. Copper prices go up, everyone is a genius. Copper prices crash, and mines shut down overnight. If you own a fleet of these monsters and the market crashes, you are stuck. You've still got the loans, you've still got the maintenance costs, you've got millions of dollars of iron sitting in a hole, rusting, while your company bleeds out. If you lease, you have flexibility. You can structure the deal to end when the project ends. You can downsize the fleet if the market turns. You're letting the bank carry the risk of the machine's value and the risk of the market cycle. And then there's the technology problem. Mining equipment is moving faster now than it has in decades. We're seeing electric drives, hybrid systems, and autonomous machines that don't even need a driver. The 6090 FS is an absolute legend, but it's an old-school mechanical giant. New machines from competitors like Liebherr or Komatsu are coming out with efficiency gains that can save millions of dollars in fuel over the life of a project. If you own your fleet, you're locked in to yesterday's tech. You can't just trade in a 1,000-ton excavator like you trade in a phone. You're stuck with that fuel-guzzling engine for the next 20 years. If you lease, you finish your term and you upgrade to the newest, smartest, most efficient model on the market. In a business where a 2% gain in fuel efficiency equals $1 million in profit, staying on the cutting edge isn't a luxury, it's survival. Even the logistics of moving the thing are a reason to let someone else own it. Imagine a mine in Indonesia that has a 15-year lifespan. When the mine is empty, that machine has to go somewhere else. Moving a 6090 across an ocean and reassembling it in the Australian outback is a logistical nightmare that costs millions. Most mining companies would rather pay a leasing firm to handle those mobilization costs than deal with themselves. If you look at the life of the last few 6090s produced, they don't stay with one company. They move from project to project, from one side of the world to the other, changing users several times while the owner remains a bank or a manufacturer. These machines aren't family heirlooms, they're tools. When you see one of these monsters in a mine, belching smoke and shaking the earth, you're looking at a masterpiece of human ingenuity. It's the biggest, baddest hydraulic tool ever made. But it's also a $25 million liability. The smartest companies in the world have realized they aren't in the business of owning equipment. They're in the business of managing capital. They know the true power isn't in the steel, it's in the cash flow. They leave the ownership to the banks and the maintenance to the engineers. They just want to dig. And they're more than happy to pay a premium to make sure that at the end of the day, when the mine is empty and the gold is gone, they can just walk away and leave the 1,000-ton jigsaw puzzle for someone else to solve. So, next time you see a massive excavator or a piece of heavy iron, don't just admire the horsepower. Think about the balance sheet. Because in the world of the giants, the most powerful tool isn't the bucket, it's the lease agreement. What do you think? If you were running the show, would you want the pride of having your name on the title, or would you play it safe and rent the beast? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this look into the hidden world of heavy machinery, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe. We've got a lot more stories to tell about the iron and the engineering that builds our world. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you on the next job site.